far, we've been speaking about the pre-plan. Now, we're going to start speaking about the plan itself. So, the activities and the material and everything we're going to use in the plan. In this case, when speaking about the plan, we have to consider some aspects. And, well, what we call the 5 major components of a plan. The description of a class, the recent work, the objectives, the contents, and the additional possibilities. When speaking about the description of a class, we should consider description of students. That means if my students, the age of my students, if there's any special need that I should consider at the moment of preparing my activities. Time, frequency, and duration of a class. That means if we're going to have only one class in a week or more than one class, and the duration of each of the classes. Comments about physical conditions or limitations in the classroom. That means, for example, if I have a board or not, if I will need a TV or not, anything I should consider before starting with the class itself. When speaking about recent work, we should consider several elements, like, for example, activities we have done with students before, topics we have dealt with students before, content in general we have studied before, language skills we have developed in our students, and language type we've been using. So recent work will be helpful to connect something my students know, because we've been working with, to the new topics we're going to study in this lesson plan. Once we have determined the recent work, we're going to work on the objectives. The objectives can be more than one, and they will determine what my students will be able to do at the end of a class that they were not be able to do at the beginning of a class. So in the objectives, I will make reference to skills we're going to develop in our students and the language type we're going to work with. Of course, when we speak about objectives, we speak about what students are going to achieve, not what teacher is going to do. We will never write an objective by saying the teacher will explain, because that would not be an objective for my students. We generally start objectives or state objectives by saying, by the end of this class or by the end of this lesson, the students will be able to, and then we write what we expect from our students to do at the end of a class. Of course, when writing the contents, something we have already established is that we have to divide the contents into these 5 important aspects. We analyze the content considering grammar, the grammar we're going to teach or work with in this class. Pronunciation, the pronunciation we're going to work with. When you say pronunciation, you should always consider that in each of our classes, we teach our students some pronunciation. It could be the pronunciation of the new vocabulary or a pronunciation of an ending. For example, if we are teaching third person singular, we may teach the difference between the differences that we consider when we teach the third person singular, for example. Function. This is a problematic area to understand. I will tell you that function is connected to the function in language, to communicative approach. Function has to do with the language and the necessity of communicating. For example, if I'm teaching future will in secondary school, there might be more than one function to be taught. For example, we can use future will to teach predictions, to teach offers, invitations, instant decisions. So as this topic has many functions, we should choose only one to be taught in the lesson plan. So we say, okay, in this class I'm going to teach future will, but the function will be predictions. So the whole lesson plan should aim at developing in your students the ability to predict something. Well, vocabulary, of course, in every class we teach some new words. And context. And this is another point kind of difficult to understand. When we teach context, we do not teach context, in fact. When we speak about context, what we do is to determine in which context you will use this new grammar and vocabulary you are providing your students. So let's go back to the example I gave some minutes ago. If I say that I want a context for future will for predictions, the context might be, for example, what will happen in 2050. So they should predict in that context. This part, the content of the lesson, is the most detailed part of a plan because we explicitly state these five major components. And when we speak about additional possibilities, we can include some aspects like, for example, what happens if the plan is not going the way we expected, if we do the activities quicker than we thought, or if some activity is not working well. So these additional possibilities may help you to solve any problematic situation you may encounter at the moment of working with your students.